Yo guys, what's going on? It's Matt here again with UMB. It is Wednesday, October 15th. This is going to be our recap video. As you guys know, I have been consistently trying to provide our members with some sort of recap video on the day, right? So the idea here is that we go through some of these alerts for you guys so that after the day is over, you can check these videos out and look at how us analysts ourselves are interpreting these alerts and how we would play them or how we did play them during the day when we got the alerts as well, right? So that's the idea with these videos. If you guys are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, also our Facebook and other socials, please make sure to go do that. Just an absolute ton of content out there. We are, putting together videos and content on the strategies that we use, these recap videos, all kinds of really, really resourceful stuff for you guys. So without getting into too much else, if this is your first time here, watching one of these videos, again, these are alert recap videos from our premium alert service that comes through our Telegram subscription. So if you're interested in that and you do not have it and you aren't receiving these alerts and you want them, get in the comments. Let us know. We will definitely get you the link and the instructions on doing so. Also, get in the Facebook. We are all in the Facebook all day long. We see our messages. We check them all the time, and we are happy to help. So here we go. So the morning started out over here. You can see we had, let's see, this is our, well, I got to situate a couple windows here. So this is our alert system here. Through Telegram, for those that aren't familiar with what it looks like, but for the guys that get the alerts, I'm sure you are. BITF came through at 5:35 this morning. So I have BITF pulled up on the chart here. This was an interesting one. It didn't have any news that we saw. There was a bunch of news that came out after this, but BITF did not. We see it pop up a lot. Again, like a lot of these other tickers that we're very familiar with, if they pop up, especially with a catalyst, they can start to run pretty hard. So this thing had a nice pop up, but it was sporadic. The volume was sporadic. We really didn't alert it right away. We didn't quite know what it was going to do. All of a sudden, we got this nice jump in here, and then we got into a pullback, and this is about where the alert went out. So we try our best not to necessarily send an alert on some kind of initial spike, because the last thing we want you guys to do is, we send an alert here, right, up at $6.50, and you buy that position immediately, which you should never do, and I encourage you in these videos every time not to do that. So we try to wait for some kind of pullback to where we think it potentially is a decent spot to buy, or at least getting close to one. So in this particular case, this was 5:35 this morning. This thing pulled back. It kind of just fizzled out through our EMAs here, but we were holding above VWAP. That's my bright white line here, right? So that was a good sign to us. We knew it had strength. The bulls were in control, right? So we decided to get an alert out that it was warming up, right? The warming up alerts mean, listen, pull up the chart, check it out, and decide for yourself what you think. Do we have volume? How far has this thing run today? Where is your support and resistance, right? Pull up the chart, check it out, and keep an eye on it. That's all the warming up alerts mean. They do not mean pull it up and buy, $5,000 worth, right? If you do that, you will lose, unless you are extremely lucky. So anyway, 5:35 this morning was, as it was cruising along through here, we sent out a warming up alert somewhere in this location here. That came through at 6:37. So that just means keep an eye on it, right? So we pulled it up. We already had it up, but and it just kind of kept cruising along, and it got all the way in here and to right about 7 a.m. when the other markets opened, and it dumped, right? So got to remember, 7 a.m. is the time where other brokers like Robinhood and a few others start to allow trading. Before that, you're dealing with some other brokers, Webull and some others that open at 4 a.m. So when 7 a.m. hits, you have all these new traders that flood into the market. You have traders that are potentially previously trapped from, the evening session where they bought a position. Who knows, right? So you never know what it's going to do. It's similar to 8 o'clock, where a lot of times we get news drops, and it can also be similar to 9:30, where the New York market opens and we either get a spike or a drop. So anyway, BITF fell off. It fell off below VWAP, it reclaimed, and then look, it just kind of danced around VWAP, fell below again, and really all day, it really didn't do much. It had some other kind of, fall-offs and then a climb back up. Definitely some scalping opportunities on it, but really for the most part, until we got all the way to somewhere in here, which was about almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it really didn't start to get legs. So I saw this pop up again somewhere in this location, and I think I took a position, right around 610, 612 once we reclaimed and confirmed VWAP. Got a little ride here, pulled back, and there was another little ride in here. Regardless, at some point in the day, this thing hit 660 from our alert of 637. You had a 23-cent jump there. Not horrible, but not without enduring these crazy dips, which you never would have been in this entire time. So again, guys, you can see the bottom. Look at my volume profile down here, right? You can see this thing. I mean, it had periods of significant volume. So when we see that on a stock, you know that it's obviously heavily being traded all day, and there are opportunities. So if you are equipped with our other strategies, you always hear me talk about the 5, 8, 13 break strategy. It appears all day long. It happened here. You could have rode 585 to, just coming up under VWAP to 606. We got down to the dip here, and look at this one. I mean, that we had that strategy occur right here. If you'd taken a position at 585, you could have rode to VWAP. Yeah, you probably would have scaled at VWAP because you're just expecting it to be resistance. But let's say you scaled 75%, you held your runners. Well, you got a 25% runners all the way up to 636. I mean, that was a great move, right? It's super important to watch these charts like this and to understand how to implement your other strategies so that even if when the alert comes out, you're not really taking a play because you don't like the chart. Okay, well, you know that this thing is of interest today, and that is the reason behind a lot of our alerts. Now, sometimes, yes, as you have seen, when an alert goes out, it just starts running like crazy. Well, it's just how it worked, and it was just the timing of the market and the alert itself. So anyway, after that, guys, we had some news come through. We had SEED, SPRC, XKTP, DFLI. Most of these really didn't do much from what I remember, but I'll just pull up SPRC. We'll just see. 705, we had news. And they entered into an agreement for the acquisition of a publicly traded company, blah, 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 to which it will transfer its advanced clinical stage pharmaceutical portfolio. Okay, great. So, let's see. 705 was on this chart all the way back here somewhere. Not back there. Give me a sec. 705. So we had a spike here at 705, right? That's when the news came out. So this alert, I believe, was somewhere up here around the top of this spike. Immediately when it came out, it fell off. Now, we were seeing a lot of this today, guys, right? There was, it was not the market that we were seeing even yesterday, but let alone Monday, right? It wasn't quite a pump and dump, but more or less, right? We had we had some random spikes going on, and then it would just kind of fizzle out and fall off. So, not an easy market to trade by any stretch. And we'll go through and we'll show you some more setups. So SPRC had no setup. XKTP came through like 10 minutes later with some news. Again, it came through right here, 714 candle right here. So the alert went out. The next candle open, we had a little pullback. You could have bought that at around $2, and you could have got that spike up to about 232. That was it for the day. This thing slammed off after that. So definitely a little pump and dump there, right? Later in the day, we had a spike up to that exact same 232 line. It just could never break that resistance. So you could have got a quick scalp out of this thing, but it was there was just not much there all day. So let's see. DFLI is the next one. I'm just going to keep moving. ZSPC was one of the last ones before the market opened, I believe. That was at 8:08, somewhere in here. So again, right? See, this thing came out right here on this top candle that was already the high of day, right? So you knew that, let's just pretend none of this stuff over here to the right exists because it wasn't there yet. And you open up a chart and it looks like this. You're thinking, okay, well, it's climbing up. We got some legs. Well, what do we need, right? We need a breakout in here, and we need a candle to close above this thing. So what you would have done here immediately is you would have had a line there. You would have known that you were looking for the break of 130. Well, the next candle opens and it spikes up to 135, and this is where a lot of traders get trapped. They chase that next candle, but that's not the proper break play. You have to let that candle close above your resistance. Well, what happened? By the time that 1 minute candle closed, it closed right at resistance. That is not a buy-in. That's not a buy-in for me. I would have then wanted the next candle to close above, looking for confirmation to get a 1 minute candle to close above this resistance line. Well, the next candle opened and it dumped, right? So we had no position right out of the gate. We were thinking, oh well, this thing falls all the way off. Okay, fine. All day long, it pretty much did nothing. So again, no play there. Today, it was just a really goofy day. We had a bunch of news come out, and nothing really ran on the news. If it did, it was a quick spike and then pretty much a dump. That's not very common. We will have news that doesn't do anything, but a lot of times the news provides some pretty good opportunities throughout the day. So this is the market, guys. We don't control it. We don't know how it's going to act in a particular day. Sometimes it acts like Monday, where things just go to the moon and there's opportunity everywhere. Other times we get days and days and days in a row of just really crappy conditions where it's difficult to take a play. You can't really gain confidence in a lot of plays all day long. So, and then we also see that connection between, Zach and Kyle and Steve and Ryan and I. We always talk about how the market conditions, many times there's a connection between how the pre-market did and then how the regular trading hours is going to be, and then also therefore how the after hours trading is going to be. So many times, like if we have a killer pre-market, which we didn't necessarily today, usually the market hours are decent, which they really weren't. If we have a killer pre-market, usually the market hours are kind of just not that good, and then usually after hours is really good. So we did not get that today. It just really didn't happen. We had a few after hours, obviously, but that was about it. So anyway, just keep that in mind. If you're watching pre-market and it's very slow, well, expect a potentially decent regular trading hours, and vice versa. So as we move on, let's see here. Right before market open, we had CSAI. CSAI came through at 9:29. So a very dangerous time to be buying anything. If you see an alert come through, coming up on market open, for sure look at the chart. I just definitely would not be buying anything. You never want to be holding a position in market open. You have no idea what it's going to do. A lot of times it dumps. A lot of times it will dump and then find support and then take off. That is a very common thing that happens. So anyway, that's a different strategy. We'll talk about that another day. CSAI at 9:29. So that was like all the way up here, basically. So we started to get this climb, and we figured, all right, we will send out the alert. It came back down into our pullback. So what's the first thing we're going to do when you open the chart? This is where you're at. You don't have any of this information over here. Okay, well, you're looking down this line and you're like, wow, okay, we had a nice climb. Well, there really isn't easily identifiable. There really isn't anywhere in here that's easily identified as support. Really, the only, I mean, I see a couple that are like, they're kind of weak, but I would probably draw on them. Like this guy here, I would say is support. You know, we had a wick, we had a close, we had another candle that couldn't break over, and then we had another candle that broke out. So we definitely had some resistance there, and then bam, it went. So I would have marked that with support potentially here because we just had this little, this little nothing candle in the middle. So maybe that guy as well. And those are the two that I would have marked looking at this line. So, all right, so we're up here and you get the alert, right? That alert comes through right here, right? And what you want to see is a candle close above where the alert came through, and that came through at 225. No, sorry, on the wrong one. $1.80, which is essentially right here, right? So I will put a line there. It's not resistance. It's just where the alert came through, just for this video. So that line is the $1.80 line. So where that alert came through, you opened up the chart. We quickly saw a candle above our resistance, really, but it didn't close. It closed below. Right, so what are we looking for? Well, we have these support lines down here. We're thinking, okay, let this thing pull back to support and then potentially take a position. So what happened? Well, we got one, right? It pulled back and it almost perfectly sat on our support line that we drew from these guys. It wicked through it. That candle came down, it came up, it gave us a doji, which is a great sign of a reversal, and then bam, it shot up. We got an upside down hammer. That's usually a sign of a reversal, but from there we shot up, we resisted that same line, and then we came back down. So that would have been a play. I took a play in this area here and rode it back up and did the exact same thing. Scaled out right at this resistance. And then when it started dropping, I closed my position entirely. So just a quick scalp, right? Nothing crazy, but sometimes that's just the way it goes, especially when the market's being difficult. So like a 10% move or so, not bad. So that's CSAI. The rest of the day, look, it came down. It sat right on this lower line that I had drawn earlier. And again, this is why we say it in every video. These support and resistance lines are super important. So it sat right down here. It jumped back up through the EMAs. It's dancing through the EMAs. It's trying. It's falling off. It's falling off. Really, I think the rest of the day it just fell off into no man's land. So there wasn't a whole lot to be played here. A quick scalp if you caught that, if you knew that you were looking for it to come and pull back to this support. If you knew that and you took your position, great. You got a quick scalp. You're done with this guy, right? Get the money, secure the bag, get out, right? Like Zach always says, pretend like you're robbing a bank, right? We are here to extract money out of the market. And if we don't figure out how to do that, guess what's going to happen, guys? They're going to take your money. It happens to everybody. So we need an edge. We need strategies, and we need to figure out how to extract that money out of the market. So take your green and get out. Steven always says nobody ever lost. I forget what he says. Nobody ever loses by by selling a green trade, something like that, right? In other words, we see so many people get green and they get greedy and they want more, right? And then all of a sudden it crashes down and they lose what they had. So at least scale out at resistance, guys. That's the point. Let's see, DFLI. I think that was a good one. I mean, we've been seeing this thing for days, so I can't remember. But I do think that we had a pretty good run on it. Let's see here. So that alert came through at 9:33 in the morning. Let's see. 9:32, 9:33, right here. So it came through at 2:25, right about this level here. And again, we don't have any other information on this. You always got to remember when I'm pulling these up, I'm trying to show it to you like all this stuff back here doesn't exist because it doesn't at the time of the alert, right? So what do we have? Well, we got some resistance here and we broke through that resistance, right? So we had some resistance there. We also had that same resistance back here. We did have a higher high here, right? So I would have opened this chart and I absolutely would have put a line on there calling that resistance. And that's really it. It fell off after that. So that's probably about the only line I would have had because I have VWAP kind of supporting me here. So when this alert came through here, I'm thinking in my head, well, we really got to get through this resistance line up here first, right? So I would have been looking for a pullback and a break through that resistance to take a play to the upside. Well, that didn't happen. It fell off. Fell off under VWAP, fell off under our EMAs, right? But look what happened here, guys, right? This is a great example. This is why you need to understand these other strategies. Again, the 5, 8, 13 is perfect here. Our EMAs are flipped on each other while this thing's dying down, right? Which is what always happens. So our 13 ends up on top and our 5 ends up on the bottom, which is not a good sign. It just means the bears are in control and this thing's going down and don't touch it. But then we started to curl and the EMAs start to tighten and then eventually the EMAs cross. I'm going to try to blow this up real big in here so that you can see where they actually cross. But so this is the lower part of that dip, right? It came down. You can see they're flipped on each other. We got the 13 up top, the 5 in the middle, and the 8 in the middle, and the 5 and the green on the bottom, the 5. And then as it starts to curl, look how tight they get in here. They start crunching on each other. And then all of a sudden, the 5 says, yo, we're coming back up. And it jumps on top of the 8, and the 13 falls below everything. And they stack accordingly. This is super important. You got to make sure that they're stacked accordingly. So as soon as we got this EMA break right here, right, this is where the EMA break play comes in. And we had a candle close over the 5 EMA, that this absolutely would have been a position right in this area somewhere. So you could have taken a position here at 205. Now, you could have been expecting resistance in full fairness right here at VWAP, which we did have. We got a little hammer candle, right, and then we came back down. We tested our 5 EMA. We're back under VWAP. We couldn't get over here, but then we shot up here. So this was a kind of a tricky play to figure out. But regardless, you could have taken a position there, playing the 5 EMA break. It's not advisable under VWAP unless you know what you're doing, you know how to use the strategy, and you're prepared to cut should it fall, right? So if you took a position here and the next candle opened and it fell down here, as soon as it got under your 13 EMA, that's a cut, right? It didn't work. So as long as you understand that concept and you're ready to take a very small paper cut, then fine. You can do it, and it can pay off. So in this case, it would have paid off for sure. You would have rode that position from 205 all the way up here to about 258, right? So pretty good move, 25%, I think. We'll just kind of measure it real quick for you. Get my tool here. So there to there, 27% move to the top of that wick, 25% move to that body. So again, on days like we had today, which happen all the time, you have to know how to read these charts, which is what we're trying to teach you. I know that it's not easy. I know that it can look very confusing. I know that I can cruise through things really fast. I remember the first time I ever opened a chart, I had no idea what anything was. I didn't even know how to put an EMA on, or even a line on the chart for that matter. So this only came through a lot of practice and a lot of time on the charts and a lot of time trading. So we here at UMB, that's what we're here for. We had to figure this stuff out for ourselves. The 5 of us eventually banded together as a group and decided to, if nothing else, just be moral support for each other. And we have come a long way. We have taught each other a lot in the markets. And we have taken a lot of losses together. We have taken a lot of wins together. So that's what we are here for at UMB, and that's why we are starting to create this content and get this stuff out there to you guys, because if we can help you at all avoid some of those drawdowns or some of those losses, that's why we're here, and that's obviously what we want to do. So we are hoping that this content is a little bit different than what you can find in other places. And if there's anything at all that you want to see that we haven't put out yet, just let us know. So let's go. Let's try to do another one here. Maybe, let's see. We'll just scroll down. There wasn't much. I mean, there was a few like a few little pumps and things, but it wasn't anything crazy. It was just that kind of day, you know. TOVX. TOVX. Let's look at that. What did that do? That came through at 11:30, just before noon, at 57 cents. Let's see. Yeah, this thing I remember. This didn't hit our. This did not pop up for us until it was pretty late. That was, what did I say, 11:30? Yeah, up here somewhere. So yeah, we had already had some nice moves out of this. Unfortunately, we didn't see it until right about here. So once we did, actually we were on this, I think, back in here, and once it started to pull back down, we gave that alert right about here somewhere in this dip, expecting it to kind of hold support in here. So, which it did, right? So that was right about this location here. So at 57 cents. So we actually had a pretty decent move out of this. I played this for sure a couple times, and it went okay. So let's look at this. So when this thing popped up here, what did you have? You had this high, you had this high, you had this high, you had this low on VWAP. So I would have, as quickly as I could, I would have had that marked. I would have had this high marked. I would have had probably that high marked, and maybe this guy down here like that. Just real quick, 4 lines, right? What am I looking at? I'm looking at this high here. I'm looking at this high here for that line. I came down here. I'm looking at this high in here, right? I came down here. I'm looking at this high in here, right? So, I mean, right out of the gate, you can see it spiked up, it resisted, came down, came up, it resisted again, came down, finally broke through that resistance, came up, it resisted here, came down, broke through, came up, resisted here, came down, broke through what should have been support, found support on the lower line down here, right? And then came back up, broke through resistance, created a new resistance, came down, broke through resistance, and then bam, came up, right? So, and look what happened when it came down, guys, right? After our big sell-off, we sat on that previous resistance here. It couldn't hold. It said, we're going to go down and try the next one. It went down. It broke. It came back. It tried again, and then bam, it went again off of that resistance. So really important to have these lines to be able to eyeball potential positions. This is what we're doing all day long, right? We're not just like just kind of buying like in here unless we know what strategy we're using, right? We're waiting for a pullback to touch resistance. So what happened? We got the alert here. We had a pullback. A candle before it, which is hard to see with my blue box here, but the candle before it here actually wicked down to support, and then we got the alert here on this guy. So the play here would have been, okay, you got resistance up here, you have potential resistance here. Let's take a position as long as this, because what happened? We tested the support here, right, with this little wick. So let's take a position here. As long as the next couple candles read accordingly. So as long as we get like a doji, a reversal hammer, something like that, which we did here, okay, we think we got some support. We're likely going back up, right? So you're in a position down here. You're coming up. You should easily be able to blow through this support because we had already gotten through it. The big one that you would have been this high here. So by the time you got up here, I think I scaled out like 75% just for a quick scalp, thinking, based on the way the day had gone. That's the other thing, guys. You got to remember, like, you got to think about how has the day gone? Has it been crazy? Have things just been running like wild? If something starts going, is it just blowing through resistance lines? If that's how the day's been, then you're going to be a little more, you're going to have the ability to not necessarily expect something to create, to stop at resistance, right? Today it just really hasn't been the best, so until the after hours. So anyway, I had scaled here. We pulled back. I think I closed entirely. The next candle open, we slammed up above, right? And what happened here? This is what happened here. So we slammed up, we broke. The next candle open, what do I want to see here, guys? I want to see it pull back and retest my support line so I can take a position. Retest and hold. Well, it didn't. The next one opened up and it kept going. I had no position. I was not going to chase this thing up and then get knifed out on it. Absolutely not. So I just said, well, I missed those two. Oh, well, here's what it is. Okay, well, the next ones open up and we start to get a drop. We get a pull back. We get a pull back. We get a pull back. Comes down and it actually touches our exact support line right here. So that was a really good sign. When by the time, but remember, just because it touches, you don't just buy there. You need this candle to close above. Once it does, that's a good sign to buy, and especially the way it closed. I mean, look how beautiful this hammer is. So it came down, it touched our support line. Buyer said, absolutely not. They stepped in. They bought that thing back up to here. It ended as a hammer candle, signaling a reverse, and sure enough, it was. It reversed, slammed up, came down, and it just rode these EMAs beautifully. So I actually took a position, I think, right in here once this guy closed, and caught this move up there. So, but from the alert overall, I mean, that was a pretty good move. Let's see. Somewhere down here. And over to there, 35% move. So if you're wondering, again, which I think I've made it pretty clear, at least for me, I am constantly opening and closing positions at different support lines, or at different resistance lines, rather. So as I come up to here, I'm closing my position because I don't want to get knifed out, especially on a day like today has been. So I hope that makes sense. What am I doing? I'm closing it to secure my bag. And then if we get confirmation of a break, okay, I'll take another position because I'm not really missing out on much, because if it breaks and goes to the moon, there are ways to play that, and we can go over those strategies later. But for the most part, it just is what it is. I missed out on it, right? So, but what are we doing? We're waiting for it to pull back again to that support line. So I'm essentially only missing out on like a cent or two if I can get a position right in here. And it's a much, much safer way to break this into chunks where you can keep playing it, right? So that's the idea there. Let's just kind of keep going. I may just jump. Don't have a whole ton more time here, but let's just see what's going on. Let's just look at TWG and after hours here. That was a monster, and we obviously had our YOG as well, which was just crazy, and we'll do that one next quickly. So TWG, sorry, I'm kind of blown up here. Give me a second. Gotta find where I'm at. There we go. Okay. So TWG alert came out at 4:14, which was this candle right here, this little red guy. We had an initial spike. We said, hey, this thing's got some potential. We sent out the alert, right? So when you get this kind of alert and you open up the chart, you don't have a whole lot to go off of, right? Because you're dealing with this level right here. All you really have to go off of is this wick before you here, right? So you could have kind of called that resistance. But when I see that we are... that we have that kind of volume pour in and it's immediately into after hours, and we do get some kind of initial retracement and pullback, and we do end up here at the top of this volume. This is it's a small but definitely bull flag-ish, right? So for me, this is actually a buy signal. Kind of risky. I would not advise always purchasing here. There's some other factors like your MACD, which was open, and there's some other things you really got to look at and know how to do. But for me, this is a buy signal because I don't have any clear resistance above. This thing just came out. It's after hours. Volume's rushing in. We want to chase that momentum. But I'm probably only going in this spot with like 50% normal position size, because even in after hours, things can dump. So anyway, we got an initial spike, and we pulled right back down. I think I did buy this, and perfect example, right, of securing your bag. Like, we got an initial spike. I think we pulled right back down, and I lost that whole gain there, which wasn't much because I wasn't sized heavy. And then we started to climb back up, and we got in here. And I think I closed in here when I saw this hammer, right? Candlestick analysis. So when I see a hammer like that, it's kind of telling me that this thing is going to reverse and go the other way. It doesn't always happen, but it does often. So, and what happened? It fell off, right? And then we got under VWAP, and it just really, we tried to test here. It couldn't break, and it fell off, and then bam, it slammed up and went through. This one was really difficult to play, but it did have some opportunities. Like, you would have never bought down here in this nonsense. There was no, literally on this bar right here, there was 200 volume. I mean, there was just no volume in these, right? Until you get to this bar, there was 1422, and in this guy, there was 13,000, right? So, like, this one was difficult to play, but it did have some scalping opportunities. And then the big one of the day, man. I absolutely hope you guys got on this. This really made my entire day, really. RYOG. It popped up out of nowhere. It hit the scanner, and man, we got this alert out to you pretty darn quick. It was kind of relentless. I mean, it was a little slow at first, but we got the alert here. I think so. Let me see. RYOJ alert 424. So we got it actually here on this second candle. We got that initial pullback. For me, what I always do, again, you're not looking at any of this other chart. What I always do is I take my starters in here. So we got the alert here. I want to see this first volume spike candle get some kind of retracement, like about 50% on a pullback, and try and take a starter there, as long as like the MACD is telling me it's okay, and some other indicators. I can't do that on this screen because we're all blown up. But so I would have taken my starters in here, and then I think I did right on this guy here, or maybe it was this one here, the 1626 candle. I think once it pulled back and then slammed back up, I actually think I got them up here, like just above VWAP. And then we got a little ride up, and we started coming down. I got this candle. I think I bailed because I was like, it's losing steam. I'm done, right? So I cashed out with whatever I had, which wasn't that much. It pulled back down. It fell into. I didn't think much of it, but I still had it on my screen. And then what happened, guys? This thing just, I mean, I don't know where this volume came from, but it was crazy. It came up, it broke VWAP here and closed above. I immediately saw that, and I took a new position somewhere in here, like $3 or something, somewhere about here. And I was just not looking for much, a quick scalp, right? I was looking at 312, like, well, I'll scale there, and then if we get more, then I'll just ride it out. So this thing came up, but I didn't even have time to scale. It just shot up to 339. So from that point, I just kind of rode full in here. And this is where it gets difficult. I mean, guys, this thing had a 300% move from the alert. I think it was something like that. Like, really just incredible. The alert was down here somewhere. It moved up here like that, and that was 315% move from the time we sent that alert out. Yeah, we had that issue out of the gate where it kind of went up and then it fell off a little, and like me, you probably would have cut in there, but then you could have easily got back in here and still had a 300% move. So, which is what I did, right? This is the only way that I can the easiest way that I can describe to you how to understand or how to think about when you should be scaling out when you don't have resistance above you, right? We had no resistance. We couldn't find lines on this thing for probably days or weeks, if not behind us. So we didn't have any lines to go off of. We had no idea where this thing was going to stall out. It was really just a matter of, when are the buyers going to get tired? So a really good thing to keep in mind when you're in a position like this and you're riding uphill is a lot of times one of the last good green candles that you will get happens to be the largest one, or we call it like a burst candle, where it just flies through the roof, right? So we were climbing up here and we were like, man, this is awesome. We were already like 150%, up in here. And we weren't really seeing much resistance. We had some like smaller top wicks here, but it was okay. So it was an easy hold in here because these were like consistent candles. I mean, look, you got, you can just look at the candles and tell, like, you got a decent one here, you got a little smaller one here, then a slightly bigger, about the same size, about double the size. And so you knew in this candle, oh man, volume is building, right? Beginning of the next candle, and bam, that is your sign to scale out. When you get that rocket, that kind of burst explosion of a candle, that is definitely your sign to take at least 50%, if not 75% of your bag. So typically all those buyers pour in, and then everybody jumps out. It's psychology, guys, right? Everybody gets scared because the price went so high, so fast, that they think it's going to dump, and then it does dump because everybody bails. So, and that's exactly what happened in here. Now, the rest of the day on it, it kind of just chopped around, didn't do much. It pulled back and then tried to come back up, which is a typical pattern, but that was it. But if I really hope that you guys were able to catch some of this move, I mean, it was just awesome. So, super, super happy if you did. And I am happy to break this play down in more context and more detail, especially what I just went over about how to kind of read the candles and the chart when you don't have support and resistance lines to go off of, because it is important. You find yourself in positions like this sometimes where you don't necessarily know. So my advice, if you are in that position right out of the gate, again, is to look for that monster kind of burst. If you are lucky enough to be in that candle, try to get it as high as it possibly can and scale out of it, right? Take 75% out and just, that's it. And then if the next one opens and it's red, then just close, right, and take your gains. So anyway, that's going to be it here for today, guys. I hope that this video was helpful. That is obviously my intention in making them for you. I've said it in other videos. I'll say it again. One of the biggest problems we face as traders, especially any of you guys that are beginner traders, or even slightly more advanced into intermediate traders, one of the biggest problems we face is not really being able to clearly understand how to break down a chart, how to look for a good entry, how to develop an edge and then deploy that edge. And you can go out and you can YouTube and you can find all these videos, and it's like some of them are helpful. There is some decent content out there. Obviously, I've watched a ton of it myself when I was trying to learn. But the point of these videos is it's not just to recap the alerts that we send. It's also to try and teach and educate you guys and help you understand where you should be taking a potential position so that you don't just get knifed out. So we want these videos to be a little more custom and not so just kind of like cut and dry. We want them to feel a little more just kind of like raw and honest, because that's exactly what it is, right? We are nothing but 5 guys that taught ourselves how to trade, that have traded together, that have seen failure, that have seen success, and coming through all of that and banding together, we have decided to try and use that to help other people and other traders, rather, and that's who we are, and that's what we're doing. So with that said, that's enough of my pitch. If you are not getting these alerts and you want them, get in the comments, let us know. We will certainly get them to you. As I always say, if there's an alert from today that I didn't break down that you want me to, just let me know. I will hands down get on. I will make that video. I will break it down, and I will personally send it to you. So anyway, guys, that's it. Enjoy your evening here, and let's hope for a good day tomorrow.